Welcome to the Final Score Network and the Final Score Podcast, presented by Team Anders Realtors. I'm Andy. He's former NCAA student athlete and co-host.
Ryan, Cam, two-hand monster flush off the inbound. Ryan, Cam, slam, jam. Oh boy.
Find the TFS pod and our playlists wherever you stream your podcast or music. Follow us on X at TheFinalScore35. Oh, and one more note before we get started.
I'd like to apologize to anyone I've not offended yet. Please be patient. I'll get to you shortly.
Welcome into episode 230 of the TFS pod. We're back after a few days off. This will be like an episode and a half kind of thing, with the U.S. Open being last weekend now and then Travelers this week, elevated event. NBA Finals, Game 7 night. Who cares about that? Hockey's done. Florida won. Congrats to them back-to-back. Michigan State football looking good. Recruiting. Michigan State basketball lost a guy that could be a contributor next year in Caleb Glenn. That's too bad for Michigan State. Maybe we'll talk about that a little later. I have a couple golf courses to review from a week and a half ago. Hope everyone's well and enjoying the hot Michigan summer that started 2 days ago. It's already off to a blazing start. And I want to continue on the Michigan State football trend. I just mentioned that briefly. But I am super excited about where Michigan State's going football-wise, trending up. There's the doomsday people. Oh, Michigan State 5-7. Last year, your recruiting class for this incoming year, not fantastic. It's okay about what it's been for Michigan State, and gets off to a slow start, not getting these 4- and 5-star guys, blah, 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 not getting on campus. There's no energy. There's no juice. Old players hate Michigan State. They don't respect this new staff, blah, 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 blah. Well, take that and shove it where the sun don't shine, because this June, Michigan State and Jonathan Smith have just had a fantastic month. Since official visits started. June is official visit month. A lot of weekends, really, you bring in your top guys that you really want, and hopefully get them to commit and shut down the recruitment. Michigan State kept a lot of these recruitments close to their vest, and they've gotten a lot of commitments. I think they're up to 16 now, and most of them are this month, and they're really high-level OKGs, guys that are late bloomers, developing more D'Antonio, type guys, a Le'Veon Bell type, guys that are, 3-star, and blooming, and they have potential, and they could be a 4-star, but Michigan State's trying to shut down the recruitment now before the big guns get them. So I'm excited where Michigan State football is going. I think this year is going to be a bowl season for them, and I think next year, keeping that trajectory going up and away is where they will go. These people that say, "Oh, it's not good enough," "Oh, it's not," they're just stupid. They're out of touch with reality. It's hard. College sports is in a really, really difficult position, and I think Michigan State's staff is kind of getting their feet underneath them. Still, they were left with an empty cupboard, just a full bowl by Mel Tucker and his garbage regime, his reign of terror, hotel room, all that garbage. But I'm excited where Michigan State football is going. Can't wait to talk more football in July into August as well. Have some good information on players for Big Ten previews. So
yeah, we got to be getting the previews.
Kind of crazy that that's kind of a thing 2 months out from week 0. Darn near. So
a day after, happy 26th to my co-host. Last week was a busy week with a lot of travel the last couple of weeks for work. Just couldn't quite work it out with the way the weather delays. We tried to do a remote pod on Monday, and then we were going to do it on Wednesday, and Mother Nature did not cooperate. So,
not a fan.
Very rare for us to take a quote week off. Although, like Ryan said, this is kind of a week and a half pod, so it's not like that far off. But it's rare for us to do that. So, thanks for hanging in there with us. It's also kind of a slower time of the year too, right? So sometimes it's hard. It's harder for me to not go back to the well a bajillion times on the same things to have a podium about, just because those same things, measure up to the top or ladder up to the top. Like if you care about the WNBA, the whole Caitlin Clark, the way the league just continues to just pummel that girl who's the face of their league. And it's just laughable to watch how that happens. But that's not what my podium is this week, because she's actually got a couple of girls that are defending her lately, which is somewhat entertaining to watch, actually. Girl fights, cat fights, meow, meow. But that's about as exciting as the WNBA gets. So, no, my podium is something that we've definitely touched on before. It's just, I keep seeing a lot of kind of, I think it was June 6th was the most recent big deadline from the NCAA on all that's going on with Michigan, and all this conjecture and speculation from podcasts and, sports pundits all over the place of, there's no way they can get away with it, blah, blah, blah. We've been hearing this, though, for like 2 years. And I just, as much as I want to believe it, and we know that there's smoke and there's fire, we know that there's erased texts, we know that Connor Stalions admitted to what he did, we know all this stuff, already what, Harbaugh got a show cause, right?
There's a bunch of guys on that staff that got a show cause.
Like, we already know that some of that's happened, and Michigan continues to kind of, hit it off with the pass by, but we're suspending guys and whatever. As much as I want to believe that the NCAA is going to get it right and they're going to take care of Michigan, they're going to drop the hammer and set an example, unlike they have been able to in a while, I just don't see it happening. Because every time they tell you dates come up, something happens, and that date's not really the date, or that date's really not exactly what you thought it was, or whatever. And I just don't buy it. I just think it's a bunch of hot air from the NCAA, because they're too chicken shit to do anything. They're too chicken shit to do anything to Michigan. They're too chicken shit to do anything to Ohio State. They're too chicken shit to do anything to Notre Dame, Alabama, Georgia, you name it. They might make Miami a scapegoat just because Miami's got a track record of that. But, in their mind, no, Michigan's pristine. I go back to, what did they do about the whole doctor thing during Bo Schembechler's reign? Nothing. What did they do during the Nassar thing at Michigan State? They tried to basically destroy Michigan State University, period. Like, they live by another standard. And I want it to happen because Michigan deserves it to happen. Put aside the fandom and the disdain for Michigan. I want it to happen because I want people who cheat blatantly and obviously to get busted so that it stops happening. Like, you've already ruined college sports enough with NIL and the open transfer portal and all that. So adhere to the rules, make teams adhere to the rules at least. But I just have no faith that it's going to happen. So I like to watch those TikToks and the people kind of going, "Ooh, this is what, there's no way that this isn't going to happen. It's going to happen. I heard this from this source and this blah, 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 blah." It ain't going to happen. So Michigan State fans, don't even get your hopes up. They're going to get another slap on the wrist. They're just going to give you that smug smirk like, we got away with it. Again. We won a national championship. Screw you, flying double birds. We're the best. You're not. Kiss our ass. That's what's going to happen. So there's your answer. So that's my podium for the week.
Not what MSU fans want to hear, but it's not surprising. It just isn't. All right. Out of bounds.
Not what we want to hear, and less probably what Ohio State fans want to hear.
Yeah, I mean, there's these.
We're used to it.
I think they're called 11 Warriors. That's like the Ohio State page, and they, always say, "Oh, this is what they're wrong." I mean, I don't know where they're getting this information from.
Right.
Clearly, there's been nothing, and this has been over almost a year and a half in the works. So, whatever. All right, out of bounds this week. I think we've probably done out of bounds flag, foul, flagrant foul, tee up, whatever. It might be on this guy before. He continues to kind of be...
I think we did it after the PGA.
Yeah, kind of be one of those guys that he's kind of turning into the bad boy. Not even the bad boy, just the dick. Wyndham Clark of the PGA Tour, of golf. There's always got to be... We say all over and over again, this day and age in golf, there's not really a villain. This guy is not great. Like, 2023 magical season for him. He wins Wells Fargo, then he wins the U.S. Open, and then ever since then he hasn't been great. And he's thrown fits over and over again. He does it again. He goes into one of the most prestigious country clubs in the United States. Historic golf clubs. Most U.S. Opens. Oakmont in the locker room smashes lockers, destroys property. There's videos and pictures surface on the internet. And the PGA Tour says nothing.
And his apology was like, I let my emotions get the best of me, but can't we just move on because that happened and I can't change that it happened and I'm sorry. Like, it was such a bullshit apology. It wasn't even real. It was like even half-assed PR, like agent threw something on a napkin for him to, make sure you address this so nobody asks us the question. And that's the thing is people will ask Rory the tough questions and Rory acts like a buffoon about it, but at least, he either just is a big baby about it or finally answers and he's straight up about it. And Wyndham Clark just kind of plays it off like, yeah, so what are you going to do about it? He's like the University of Michigan.
You get a weird like FU.
Yeah.
Like dude, you've
got a really crappy vibe.
You won one major. He had attitude problems before, and then he kind of tried to remake himself, right, with like the full swing stuff, and him having like a coach, like a mental coach kind of thing, and kind of remaking. And ever since then, it's just been downhill for him. And I don't like him. I really never did. And I'm going to continue to not like him if he acts like a freaking child, because he's still a so-called professional. Great example for young kids that are watching golf.
If he's not the example of born with a silver spoon, his name is Wyndham.
Yeah, I mean, he's had tragedy in his life. I get it. Like that's awful.
Everybody has, though.
But everyone's
doesn't excuse bad behavior.
It's ridiculous. He should not be acting like that, especially at somewhere like that. The PGA Tour are nuts. They'd suspend him, but that's
or even the USGA should say, you know what, you can't play in the U.S. Open next year.
Yeah,
period,
exactly.
because it's their event. So
exactly. All right. We will move on to par 3, a big shot number 1 for golf. But before that, shot 1 is presented by Norris Sports Group. NSG is a boutique agency of experts with 30-plus years experience in sports sponsorship and much more. Learn more about them today at norrissportsgroup.com.
Call it a long par 3, an Oakmont par 3.
Oakmont, let's start at Oakmont. Just the truest, most difficult and firmest test in golf was Oakmont Country Club this past weekend, hosting their 2 weekends ago now, I guess, hosting their 10th U.S. Open record. J.J. Spawn, a unlikely winner. Phenomenal. We'll get to him later, but let's talk about the course first. Ridiculous shape. Just pristine. The greens were rolling almost a 15 on the stimp. The fairways were fast and firm. The rough was gnarly. We talked about that in the pre-show with Chris and Mitch, and how it would be, affect people. We talked about final scores, 1 under 1. You predicted over par, I think, and then me, Chris, and Mitch were from 2 to 4 under par. So we're all pretty close. But what a tournament it was. I mean, the rain, the weather kind of changed that course. Obviously made it a little interesting on Sunday when they wanted to finish it. Let's start with JJ Spawn. Just leads after round 1, has a really, really nice day. Goes bogey free. Shoots 72 on Friday. Thinks he's okay. 69. Gets toward the final pair and starts off terribly.
About 5 bogeys in his first 6
bad
holes.
Played 5 5s in a row to start.
Hit the flag on number 2.
Bounces back. Bad break. He had a few bad lies that he caught.
And learned, by the way, that the flags for the U.S. Open are different.
They're bigger at the
thicker,
bottom.
so
they bounce more.
So they bounce off more.
Yeah. But he uses, he gets back to it after the rough start. Makes a few birdies. Then the rain delay happens. I think he was on 10 or 11 when that happened. I think it was 11 because the leaders were on 10. Goes in, whatever it was, 2 hours. Kind of uses it as a reset. He talked about it a little bit, saying, I had this with the players. I kind of just use it to reset my mind and get right. And he did that. And he played some phenomenal golf. And 17, short par 4, hits just a unbelievable, butter cut into that green. Almost holds it for eagle. Makes birdie. And then on 18, just absolutely one of the hardest, probably his heart's probably beat through his chest.
64 feet or whatever it was.
Well, the tee shot, straight.
Oh, yeah.
Right down the middle. Hardest tee shot he's probably ever hit, just off nerve and all that. Hits a nice approach, safe, middle of the green. Hovland hits it, settles about a foot behind it, gets the read. And thinking he could 3-putt this. This is a slippery downhill putt. Got to get up and down for par to basically win this thing. And what I think Dan Hicks said, can he get it down in 2? And then he makes it, says, how about 1? One of the greatest putts, one of the greatest finishes. Gary Woodland did that when he won at Pebble Beach. He made a bomb on 18 to seal the deal, but it was like 40 feet. That was 64 feet down the hill, perfectly read. Like, that fell right in the cup at the perfect speed.
He made something like 128 feet of putts in the last 8 holes, too.
Absurd behavior by J.J. Spawn. And a likable guy. He's just kind of a journeyman, soft-spoken guy, little guy. It was nice that his daughters were there.
Kind of a weird vibe with his wife.
Yeah, I saw that on TikTok. There's like marriage trouble there.
And something's weird, yeah. But whatever. I mean, it doesn't take away from the fact that it was a great win.
Phenomenal win by him. And then I shout out to Robert McIntyre. That guy in national opens is an absolute maniac.
Yeah, and he's young too.
He's 28, 29 years old. He's a guy that I could really see doing well in Ireland next month.
Loved his response too. Like, he just
clapped
was like,
for
wow,
him. He's a really good dude.
Could have been mad. Could have been, cameras.
Yep.
I don't know if he was aware the cameras on him or not, but certainly could have been mad or disappointed or whatever that he lost his chance. But it was good sportsmanship and the fact that he just lost an amazing play.
He's a good competitor, and happy for him that he played well. Victor Hovland, he's continues to be Jekyll and Hyde. He'll miss 10 cuts in a row, then he'll show up and get a solo third place at the U.S. Open and have a real chance on Sunday to win it. I think he will get a major eventually. I don't know which one, but I think he can do it. Cam Young, Tyrrell Hatton, nice weeks, continue to be up there in majors. Cam Young, he's kind of fallen off after a magical 2022.
He plays well in majors.
Little 2023, he played really, really well. Gave himself a chance. Tyrrell Hatton, he had a chance down the stretch, kind of unraveled when he was going for it, but he also had a really good reaction. I don't know if you saw that. When he won, when he was being interviewed, he had a big smile on his face. That's unlike him, so good to see some joy from him. Rombo, he was a clubhouse leader for most of the afternoon. He played well again. Scotty did not have his probably again.
But he 73, 71, 70, 70.
C-plus game, and he
top 10.
Finishes in the top 10. He's not broken 70 in the U.S. Open in like 9 rounds.
Burns folded like a chair under pressure, sadly, with 78 on Sunday.
And I thought he had a really good chance, and I'm like, oh man, he's going to get this done. And going into the back 9, plays well, gets that birdie. Then after the rain delay, he just kind of unraveled. He had that weird situation where he was
he and Scott, 78 and 79 is the last pairing.
Yeah, that worst ball.
Yeah, that was garbage. That
was garbage, because, he can't control that it's settled. And
I get the USGA wants to play by as close to the original rules as possible, but, that's not soft to not have to play out of standing water. He's in the fairway. It's one thing if it's in the rough. Then it's like if I hit it into the divot off of my drive and in the rough, like in the first cut, and it's in a divot, I'm not going to move it because it's in a divot in the rough. I didn't hit it in the fairway. Now, fairway is a different story. If I hit it in a divot when we play on a fairway, I'm moving it out of the divot because that's bullshit. Yeah. But, so to make him hit out of basically a pond, he handled it like a champ, and that's not why he lost, because he was struggling anyway. But poorly. That kind of closed the door on him, which is too bad.
Yeah, I felt for Scott too. I thought that he had a real chance with his major chops, and playing well in the past, winning a Masters, and being a guy that's played well in the Open before in tough conditions. He folded, especially down the stretch, just didn't have it. Russell Henley, nice week. Xander Schauffele continues his T15 or better in a U.S. Open streak. Koepka, T12, that's the best major performance he's had probably since he won the PGA in 2023. He had a real chance kind of heading into the weekend, then kind of folded a little bit, didn't play great. Rory, another subpar to poor week, ended well with a 67 on Sunday, but never really was in it. Spieth had a little chance, gave himself glimmers of hope, and would always fall down a little bit. Notables that missed the cut. Wyndham Clark, boo-hoo. Patrick Cantlay, I was surprised by that. I thought
I had him on my team.
I thought he'd get up there and play well. Ludwig, he has been poor since he won
at Torrey.
He's been bad. Yeah. I think that illness, that pebble when he was sick, ever since then he's kind of been a little off.
He's been struggling a bit.
Was this Phil's last U.S. Open? Quite possibly. Other notable DJ, not surprising. We played at Bryson. I really thought he had a chance to win this. Just did not drive the ball well, and that shows putting a premium on accuracy instead of just bomb and gouge. And you can't get in that rough and expect to win. And overpowered Justin Rose. I thought he would play well. Terrible performance out of him. So yeah, I mean, a really good week. I loved watching it. It was obviously a really hard test. I don't mind seeing that once a year. I know some people spoke and said it's too hard. I know Lucas Glover on his show was saying, oh, it's too hard, too fast. I mean, dude, it's the U.S. Open. What do you expect? Like, would he win the U.S. Open at Bethpage?
Mm-hmm.
And he probably won it like 3 under, so that's hard conditions.
Mm-hmm.
You won a golf tournament in that condition. Like, you can't control the weather. You can't control, the way the wind's going to blow. You just got to take what the course gives you. It's a hard test. You know that going in next year, and Shinnecock's going to be the same thing. It's back to back really with Pinehurst, 3 very unique and different golf styles. With Pinehurst obviously being no real rough, just the native areas, sand, a lot of undulations around the green. Donald Ross, weird bunkers, and then Oakmont, just difficult, thick rough, fast greens, and then Shinnecock, really fast greens, open, windy. So that's why I love the U.S. Open. And then I just think the rotation is awesome that they have for it. I think they've found a really, really good rhythm with it. A place I would like to see not have a U.S. Open anymore is like a Torrey Pine. I'm not a huge fan of that being a U.S. Open and that being a stop on the PGA Tour. It doesn't do much for me. I mean, it's beautiful. I obviously would play it in a heartbeat, but I just don't. That course doesn't excite me when I'm watching golf. All the other ones, even like a Winged Foot, that's not necessarily great for me. But the rest of them, hell yeah, they're great. Except for Oakland Hills in 2034, we'll have to go to that. But yeah, I love the U.S. Open. I thought it was a really good tournament, and looking forward to next year.
Who won the contest?
Contest. Forgot about that. Let me pull this up here. I believe the order was. So I had a score of 1,152 combined. You had 1,156 combined. Mitch had 1,168 combined, and Chris had 1,167. So I won. You finished second. Chris with third place finish. Third place finish. Then Mitch with fourth place. So that'll be our picking order for the Open.
Nice.
Next month at Royal Portrush. Dunluce, I think that's the links. That place is awesome. I would love to play there one day. But yeah, that's the U.S. Open. I don't really have anything else unless you do. I thought
Chris has a couple of questions for us on mailbag.
Okay, so. I thought the presentation of it was great. I think NBC does a phenomenal job. All their on-course people are really good. I think apparently Faxon, I heard this or read this on something, said he got like Arnold Palmer and Jack Nicklaus confused over something and kept saying, Jack Nicklaus, and it was really Arnold Palmer. Oh. That's kind of weird.
That was Arnie's course, so yeah, interesting.
Yeah. So let's move on to the Travelers. Just ended a little bit earlier. We texted who we were going to pick pre-tournament, and of course I got to stay on my heater. I picked Keegan Bradley, and Captain America Keegs gets the job done for the second time in a few years in New England, his home territory. That was a great Sunday. That tournament always delivers, I feel like, especially the last few years.
People talk about how easy that course is. They asked Scotty after he shot an 8 under on whatever the first day, and then he ended up.
He had shot 62 on the first day. He
was 8 under, 9 under.
He ended up at 12 under for the tournament.
All right, so it really, I mean, and his answer was great. It's like, no, it's just everybody roots for us to do bad, and we're just really good at what we do. Yeah. And the course plays with some teeth, the last 3 holes especially, and felt horrible for Tommy Fleetwood, who's been so close to getting a win on the PGA Tour and had this thing. And, as much as he kind of lost it because he changed clubs and went with less club, thinking adrenaline, and came up short, and then 3-jacked. Basically, he was off the green, but he basically 3-putted. to lose by one, and Keegs stuffed one, and then
Hits a
Tommy
phenomenal golf
gave
shot.
him the line, and then he knocks it in for the birdie to win it. As much as you feel bad for Fleetwood, you feel great because Bradley is really the man of the North, of New England, and he embraces that. And it was good golf. There were a lot of good names up on the.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at this
on the
leaderboard.
leaderboard.
I mean, Bradley first, Fleetwood and Henley second. Henley awesome.
Henley chips
awesome
in to
chip
tie
in.
for second. Yeah.
Harris English, Jason Day.
Who was my pick, by the way? Harris
Yep.
English.
Scotty Scheffler, Rory, Brian Harmon, Harry Hall, Justin Thomas, Lucas Glover. That's all top 10
Yeah,
right there.
and JT would have been right in there, except for he took a 9 on a hole on
Yeah, if you
Saturday.
take that to a 6, I mean, that's a T6 for him. So a phenomenal tournament that's been. So glad that.
And Spawn finished tied for 14th, so
Yeah,
not a
he
bad
had a
weekend
nice
for him
weekend
either.
then because he was played pretty
Tough
poorly.
start. He was 4 over.
73-71. Then he went
Mhm.
66-63 to close. So
Yeah.
nice job on him. That tournament's really good. And I'm glad that it went down to the wire again. And this throws a monkey wrench in there for the U.S. or for the Ryder Cup for the U.S. team.
Yeah.
Which we're definitely going to do a Ryder Cup selection, pick show before it actually happens. Pick our teams because it's going to be really interesting. And at this rate, Keegan is playing as one of the 12 best players in the U.S. bar none. He's played a really good season. That was his first win, obviously, but he's had a really nice season. And it's going to be hard, but who knows? I mean, he wants to win so badly. I know he wants to play in it so badly, but he also wants to win so badly. So I'm sure they'll figure out something. But yeah, it's going to be very intriguing to watch here in the next month and a half. See what happens. I think Russell Henley's for sure on there. I think English has a really good shot at it. I'm excited to see who rounds out this U.S. team. And I think the Euros have more firepower with better players, but I think the U.S. players are playing better golf as a whole.
Right. I would agree with that.
I think they're more talented, them being the Euros, but yeah. I'm excited to see what happens. All right, next week on the tour, Michigan and Detroit Golf Club is the stop for the Rocket Mortgage. Some decent names playing in there. Ricky, he won there a few years ago.
Finau's won there.
Finau's won there. Cam Davis has won twice. I think Fitzpatrick is playing Morikawa. So some big names in the D. My guy, I'm going Finau. I think he's due. He hasn't won in a little bit. And yeah, I think he's due to have a nice week. I don't know if he'll win, but I think he's going to have a good performance at least. He's a birdie.
I'm going to go with Cam Davis. He knows the track. He likes the track.
He does like it. That's for darn sure. Popular pick there. I'm sure his odds will be pretty good. But looking forward to watching that. Always cool to see it with it. We'll be nearby, actually, kind of. Might have to stop by, huh? All right, that's that. Now we got some golf courses to review. This was 9 days ago. We both took work off. We played a couple really good courses. One that we both had played back in 2017, been a long time, Tullymore, and then I'd never played St. Ives. You played it a long time ago. Tullymore, let's talk that first. We played that Friday morning. The weather was a little dicey at the beginning, thought it was going to rain, misting a little bit, windy, a little chilly. And that kind of blew over, and ended up being a really pleasant, low 70s, wear a quarter zip for 9 holes and take it off for the back 9 kind of thing. Sun came out a little bit. Just a really phenomenal golf course. I mean, that's a top 100 public track in the United States. I can totally see why I didn't remember it that well from when we played it before, but that's a course I would not mind playing over and over again.
Yeah, it blends a lot of great courses.
It's hard, but it's not.
But it's fair.
But it's fair, and you can score.
But it's also, if you choose the right tees, it's not impossible, right? Like it's about picking the right tees. I think we played blue whites or something like that. Mm-hmm. Don't make it more difficult than you have to. Some unique holes. It's got pieces and parts of Forest Dunes. It's got pieces and parts of, like kind of some of the Stonehenge, Bedford Valley type courses. It's got pieces and parts and feel of or Hawk Hollow.
Yep.
Eagle Eye. I mean, it's got like a bunch of. It's not based off of any of those, but like just to give it some context. But great course. Love the finishing hole. Loved it until I was sitting 100 yards out in 2 with a chance to actually beat Ryan when I was playing a horrible back 9 and after a great front 9, and then I hosel rocketed the approach shot and ended up taking a 7 and eked out a tie. But great hole, par 5, got a drive over water all down the left, big tree that guards part of the water, kind of a little bit of a boomerang shaped green, or not a boomerang, but like I guess kind of like a sideways or a kidney bean shaped green. A lot of undulation, but yeah, just a great course and amazing shape.
There's
fun par 3s, some near drivable par 4s.
Yeah, I like a lot of dog legs out there.
Yeah, tons of dog legs.
And they're all like a lot of dog leg lefts.
Yeah.
I think there's a really good mix of short and long holes. I think there's some par 5s that are bears. There's some par 3s that are a little longer, shorter. It's a course where there's not one particular hole that stands out and you say that's by far the best. I think they're all really solid. It's well routed through the trees. Not a ton of elevation change, but very beautiful through the woods, some water.
Shorter par 5s at smaller greens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the greens
so
not
they
huge.
make up for maybe if it was shorter in length, that was the green was tougher to hit.
Yeah.
And then some holes would have massive greens that were maybe a little bit shorter, so you had to be precise and be on the right tier.
Yep.
So yeah, kind of like a thinker's golf course.
Yeah, I loved it. Greens were immaculate.
Mm-hmm.
Those are I putted pretty well, I think, because the inconsistency of a Boulder Creek, for example, I just cannot stand that. Those greens were all the same. They were all quick. I learned after the first hole, like, just tap it and it's gonna go. Your ball's gonna roll out and it's gonna end near the hole if you put a good speed on it.
Mm-hmm.
So, just phenomenal. Bunkers were nice and easy to hit out of. The pace of play was pretty darn good. We played in a little, probably 3:30.
Yeah, we were moving on that course.
Not slow at all. And that's with some slow pokes kind of in front of us at the start of the back 9. That was a lot of fun. And we went over for a twilight in air quotations round over at St. Ives, 10 minutes up the road.
4 o'clock tee time when we were the last tee time on the course.
Yeah, such a fun golf course. That was, I thought it was going to be good. I liked it better than I expected to like it. Just a lot of elevation changes, a lot more than Tullymore. I would equate it to like a little bit of the Mines with the the hilliness, but a more closed off version of the Mines.
Mm-hmm. You haven't played Thousand Oaks, but there's a couple holes that have kind of a Thousand Oaks vibe where you're teeing up from up or you're going up to a green.
Some downhill tee shots or uphill tee shots, and then uphill or downhill approach is really fun. I'm trying to think of just all the holes were really fun.
The closing stretch is the best, though. That's when I picked up my ball because of my hand.
I'm trying to remember the numbers. I think so. 16 is the par 3, 15, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Really phenomenal. 14
is like a layup off the tee. Got to carry the reeds to
small
a
green,
elevated green.
Yep. Then short par 4 to an elevated
super
green.
Boomerang. Like you can try to bite off as much as you can chew, but it's all carry.
Yep. And then short par 3 over water. Huge green.
And a par 5 with water all down the right.
And then a par 4.
Par 5, that number 17 was kind of like number 16 at Pilgrim's Run.
Yes, very similar to that. But just, I really enjoyed that. Also, very, very good shape. Not as fast of greens, but definitely well kept. That's a course I could play all the time. That was a lot of fun. Would definitely go back to both. I wish we could play those more often, to be honest with you. I don't think I really have much else. I'd give them both A's.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, I'd put them. I'd say they're both in the top, 10, 12 courses I've played in Michigan for sure. We played a fair amount of really good tracks, I would say, in Michigan.
We played probably most of them.
Yeah, most of the best public courses. Gray Walls is really my next big one. That's a hike, but that's definitely on the Michigan bucket list. All right, that's shot one. If you don't have anything else,
nope, that's it.
All right, shot two. In a word from our presenting sponsor, Team Anders Realty will help you find the home that fits your wants and needs, and they make the process simple and fun along the way. The Anders have served thousands of clients for 30 plus years in the West Michigan area, and are here to serve you today. Learn more at teamanders.com. All right, let's go to mailbag. Chris-a-palooza.
Yeah, anything from Mitch this week?
Nope, nothing from Mitch this week.
All right, well, first, not in the mailbag, but how about the Miami or Wisconsin suing Miami for tampering?
Oh gosh, yeah,
it's the beginning.
It's lovely. You didn't. I couldn't have told you that was going to happen.
Right. Hey, more power to Wisconsin because they're not wrong. The gist of it is Miami grabbed the guy that wasn't even in the transfer portal, gave him a lot of money to go to transfer, so they tampered with him basically, and so they're the first ones to kind of raise their hand and call somebody out for it.
Isn't even a starter. Wasn't a starter for Wisconsin.
Ridiculous. All right, so getting into Chris's mailbag, lots of good questions, Chris, over the last somewhat extended period of time. With the new revenue sharing ruling, will leagues begin to, quote, specialize in certain sports? For example, the Big East doesn't play football, at least at the D1 level. So teams like St. John's could spend the majority of their $21.5 million on basketball and build a super team. Will we see more of that? Will the Big Ten, will the SEC go that way?
I think that's already a thing, and I think this 21 million.
But you think the SEC is going to give up basketball to play only football and to focus only on football?
They'll find a loophole to do it for both. That's how they work.
Will like the ACC become only basketball and put all their money into
the
that?
ACC, I think, is going to cease to exist within the next 5 years.
Yeah. What about the Big 12?
That will cease to exist as well. This is a Big Ten SEC. It's a matchup. They're going at each other
football,
when it comes to this playoff BS. I'm sure it'll trickle into basketball and add more teams to the tournament because why ruin something that's perfect or close to perfect by adding more mediocre teams? Blah 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 blah. Let's give everybody $1 million. I hate that, but yeah, I think we're on a collision course for that to happen.
All right, Chris says Oakmont was brutal. Do you prefer a U.S. Open like this year or an Open where more of the tour's premier players are in contention on Sunday? Why? I think there were guys. We talked about it. They were maybe not that close, but at the U.S. Open, you're never very far away.
Battle of attrition.
If you're within 4, 5, 6 shots of the lead on going into Sunday, you've got a chance. Is it great? But at the same time, it's kind of nice to see somebody else that can grind through the weekend. It doesn't always have to be the best players, and look, they're all good. It doesn't always have to be Scotty or Rahm or Rory or, guys like that win. I think certainly helps for TV if guys like that are in contention. It's like the old Tiger Woods and Phil Mickelson days. But personally, I just like to watch these guys play good golf and to deal with it, the adversity of the golf course and how they overcome the golf course, how J.J. Spawn overcame 5 bogeys in the first 6 holes to come back and right the ship to win. That's as impressive to me as had a big name won it.
Yeah, I agree. I'm perfectly fine with it.
Okay, a non-sports question. I've seen this on TikTok often over the last several months. Would you rather date a liberal or an illegal immigrant?
I abstain.
Yeah. I guess, if we're talking about an illegal immigrant that's not here as a part of a gang or something like that, I'm probably going to go that route than a liberal because I've just seen what I've seen and no more comment.
Yeah.
All right. I like this question. I looked at this question ahead of time. So you got to listen closely to this. You're given 3 clubs to break 100 for $1 million. Which bag are you choosing and why? So you have 4 choices. Choice number 1 is driver 7-iron lob wedge.
Okay.
2, 3-wood pitching wedge putter.
Mm-hmm.
3 hybrid 7-iron sand wedge, 4 driver lob wedge putter.
3-wood, was it 3-wood pitching wedge putter?
I think I'm gonna go, because you figure you can hit driver on typically 14 holes. I'm gonna go driver 7-iron lob wedge. I've done it before. I'll do it sometimes off the fringe, putt with the belly of a lob wedge. I've done it before where I rented clubs and I hated the putter, so I putted with the belly of a lob wedge. 7-iron is super versatile. You can take that off of tees, and honestly, if you needed to, like I have a neighbor who, like he told me once that he just plays to a 7-iron. Like if he knows he hits his 7-iron at 150 yards, he makes sure that he gets to that as his approach shot. He'll hit whatever he needs to get to that, basically. So I feel like driver, because I also hit the driver well, and straight 7-iron lob wedge would be my choice. I will say I'm not very good at the lob wedge from away from the green.
Yeah, it's hard.
I tend to kind of blade them. Yeah, the full swing stuff. But for the fact that I'm not all that accurate putting the ball in the green with my second shot, the lob wedge comes in very handy for me. Plus, you can hit it out of the sand trap. So that would be my choice. Good question, Chris. I like that. By the way, text me what your answer would be. All right, next one. Ryan touched on this a little bit in his podium. Coach Jonathan Smith and the Spartans have been hot on the commitment train the past few weeks. Give your thoughts on the current class and new slew of commitments.
Yeah, I'm excited by it with the mix of guys Michigan State's gotten. I mean, they already have a quarterback, an East Kentwood kid. He committed a little bit ago, but they're getting offensive line with size. They're getting corners that are versatile, that play both ways.
And they just flip a 4-star receiver?
Flipped a 4-star receiver / athlete from Sarasota, was going to go to UCF, going to Michigan State now. That was a big coup for Michigan State. He had just visited Georgia. I think getting more edge rushers, like more, blue chip kind of guys in that department would be better to get those homegrown. But no, I'm excited by it. I already touched on that a little bit earlier, but I think the mix of guys in there, still they're not done. They have till December to fill out the class really. So I wouldn't be shocked to see them add 3 or 4 more guys, and obviously we'll go portal with more. I'm excited by it.
Yeah, and you haven't really heard of any turnover coming out of spring ball either.
They didn't have much. They only had like 3 or 4 guys leave, and they were kind of
mid,
bad, no one of use. Not like last year where you lose a Derek Harmon, who's a first-round pick, and a Simeon Barra, who wasn't a draft pick, but was one of your best players on your defense. I mean, if you put those 2 guys in Michigan State last year, they're probably a 7-win team. Stopping the run, they had a little trouble in the middle there, had some injuries. So, guys like that make a difference. And I think, keeping these guys, retaining them, will pay dividends for Michigan State. And overall health will be a big thing for them. That's been a struggle I swear it's been a struggle since we went to the playoff. I feel like every year we have had major injuries in teams like Michigan.
Especially in the secondary.
Yeah, secondary. You've got, the last couple of years you've had guys playing that shouldn't have any business being on the field in a Big Ten game. So I think now they have more playable depth than they have probably since 2021. I think they had okay depth, just it wasn't across the board. So I think they're a little better across the board now. So,
all right, last one. I know the answer to this. Let's see if you do. Michigan State won the 2015 Cotton Bowl, and Michigan State lost the 2015 Cotton Bowl.
Correct.
How is this possible?
Michigan State played Baylor for the 2014 season. First game of 2015, won 42-41.
Epic comeback.
Keith Mumphrey, last second touchdown. Marcus Rush blocks a kick. That set it up.
Tony
Archie
Lippett
Williamson
absolutely destroys their kicker.
Destroyed the kicker.
Would be a penalty now.
Who ended up working at Michigan State in their Spartan Fund, which is hilarious. And then Riley Bullis sealed it with a pick. And then Michigan State, I don't even want to talk about it, but hard sore subject here. Lose to Alabama in the playoff, 2-3. New Year's Eve 2015. in the Cotton Bowl.
Started the season in Dallas.
10-0, I think, was the score. Michigan State's driving, and Connor Cook throws just a horrible interception, and Michigan State never got off the mat there. I think if they score a touchdown there, they give themselves life going to the half and killed them, and they got slaughtered. I mean, Alabama, that was a team that had more pros than I could count.
Ingram and a bunch of guys, right?
No, this was after. This was Derrick Henry.
Oh, Derrick Henry, that's right.
Their quarterback was Buns, Jake Coker. He was terrible, but they just had a squad around him. I think maybe Amari Cooper, someone like that. Maybe, I can't remember. They were so good.
Can't get one past fellow Spartans, Chris. That's the moral of the story. We both knew it. So that is the mailbag for the week, Chris. Thanks for the slew of questions. Gave you a little bit extra time, so you're able to get us some extras, which we appreciate.
Yep. Let's move on to shot 3. We're going to do a Mount Rushmore this week. Be a fun one here. Mount Rushmore of Detroit sports royalty, one for each major league team. So we'll do baseball, Detroit Tigers. We'll do basketball, Detroit Pistons. Football, Detroit Lions, and hockey, the Detroit Red Wings. Do you want to lead us off with the Lions?
Yeah, and it's your own personal Mount Rushmore, so if we're the same, we're the same. I think there's a few picks that could be in play for the Lions, but for me, it's Barry Sanders. Is not even a question. I think had he continued to play, he would have probably set records that would never be broken, in my opinion. He was amazing to watch, but hung it up early.
He had a heart attack last year,
so that he could walk and have life after football, and give him credit for it. But yeah, Barry Sanders is absolutely on my Mount Rushmore for Detroit.
It was a tough decision for me between Barry Sanders and Joey Harrington, but I'm gonna go with Barry.
Chuck Long.
Obviously, didn't watch him play, but I've seen the videos. I've seen the tape. That's enough for me. You could put Calvin up there, but he also retired young, and who knows what he could have made. Stafford, if he'd stayed in Detroit, if they'd actually tried to build a team around him, if they had the organization around him that they did now, I think that the Lions would have won at least one Super Bowl and gotten there multiple times. I think that they were good enough to do it. I just don't think that they were serious about it.
Yeah, very true.
But yeah, there's no other name that really jumps off the page to me for the Lions.
Gary Danielson, Eric Hipple.
They weren't good, were they?
Oh.
Spielman, Jason Hansen, good man. Riley's father-in-law. All right, let's go Tigers. Go get them, Tigers. First place still. Best record in baseball still, even after losing 4 in a row.
No, they lost 3 in a row, and
they've
not been bad, but they haven't been quite as sharp lately, and they still, like Ryan said,
they're a little banged up.
Tigers, man, there's a lot of ways you could go. We did our all-time starting lineup recently.
That was a fun one.
I struggle. You could go Miggy, you could go Verlander, you could go Al Kaline, you could go
Ty Cobb.
Ty Cobb, Alan Trammell. Lots of great Tigers. For me, I think just the consistency and just the domination, I got to go with Verlander.
He was as good as they. I'm going to go Cabrera. Triple Crown. MVPs.
Oh, yeah, he's one of the best players of all time.
Guy is one of the best hitters of all time. He was actually an okay fielder. He just was a little slow. But the dude is just, unbelievable. How many clutch hits he had in his tenure in Detroit. I remember when they traded for him at the deadline. Was it the deadline or was it before, at the beginning of the year? I can't remember what it was, but he was, oh my gosh, that dude was special.
Yeah, he was.
Phenomenal player, and got to watch him in his prime too, which is even cooler. Wings,
another. You could go a lot of different directions. You could go Gordie Howe, Mr. Hockey. You could go, of course, Steve Yzerman, who rebuilt the Red Wings to a Stanley Cup champion. You could go Sergei Fedorov. You could go Nick Lidstrom. The Red Wings a lot of guys though that they had were not necessarily forever Red Wings guys, right? Like Yzerman was, Gordie Howe was, but a lot of guys like Brendan Shanahan and amazing players like that weren't. I mean, the Red Wings had a slew of guys that were great, and they were kind of in the twilight of their career when they won Stanley Cups. But I think for me, it's difficult because how good Stevie Y was, but I'm going to go Nick Lidstrom.
Really?
Yep.
I'm going to go Yzerman. Didn't see him play, but I know he was a stud.
Yeah, he was
terrible
a stud.
GM, but yeah. All right, Stones, last one.
I got to go with Isaiah Thomas.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm going Zeke.
You could go Grant Hill. You could go Chauncey Billups. There's been some good Pistons too, but like Isaiah Thomas, I mean, he just was the lifeblood of that team, the bad boys, and just kind of had like this soft persona to him, but he actually was kind of down and dirty personality wise.
He kind of a personality like Magic a little bit, like the smile.
But he was a killer.
Yeah, dude, he's great.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go Zeke too. I could have put Chauncey or Rip or Darko, Stanley Johnson,
Chuck Nevitt,
Henry Ellenson, all the greats that the Pistons have had in the last 20 years. When I was young, I remember watching them when they were in their prime. I actually liked watching them because they were fun. I loved the headbands. I had a Pistons headband, Ben Wallace jersey. Then they went to hell.
Yeah.
And this year was good, obviously, but holy cow. They got to
NBA is
get
just
back
a
off the
dog
mat.
water game, though. So
It's terrible basketball. I'm glad it's done tonight. Another season of hell. All right, that's shot 3. If you have any Mount Rushmore's brackets you want us to do or discuss, please let us know, and we will try to do them. Maybe throw them in ChatGPT. We'll come up with some fun ones for the rest of the year, summer. So we're always open to suggestions. Let's end it like we always do with a sprint. I'm going to start with a couple golf questions. After we didn't talk about it, Rory being a weenie at the U.S. Open, wouldn't talk to the media. He's like, I'm mad at you guys. Oh, okay. Are you 3? The answer is yes to that question. But how? Just his whole persona has been weird. It's been weird since he won the Masters. There's just rumors of him kind of just meh after doing that. Just kind of like, I don't have anything else to strive for. How long until you think he hangs it up?
Oh, I think he'll have a rejuvenation. I mean, he played well this week. He was top 10 this week. I think he's going to be driven to win the Open in a couple weeks. I mean, he's only in his 30s. I think no surprise that he's had a little bit of a lull because that was such a thing for a long time. He hadn't won a major in a long time, and that was the last one that he needed. I think he still has probably 2 or 3 more majors in him.
Yeah. I don't think he lasts more than 2 years. I think he's just going to flame out. I think he's going to get so frustrated that he's just going to be like, I don't want to do this anymore, and it's not going to make him happy. I really do.
Good.
And I could see, I've always kind of thought in the last year or two that he would be a guy that would hang it up early.
Yeah, good.
And now that he has the Grand Slam, I think that's even more plausible. Okay. Actually, I lied. This is a basketball question. Will this NBA draft this week, will Jace Richardson be a lottery pick?
No.
I don't think he will either. I think he falls to the 16 to 18 range. I think he's a guarantee. I think that's why he went. Team tell him, if you're here, we're picking you.
Right.
That would be my guess.
I'm going to be pissed if he doesn't go in the first round because knowing that he could have come back. But hey, I don't wish any ill will.
No, he's a good kid. He's got a good head on his shoulders, good family, obviously. It wasn't a Deontay Davis situation.
Right.
All right. Favorite golf course style? I feel like we talked about this before, but time to...
Oh, favorite golf? Yeah, that's a good question.
Mine's Parkland.
Yeah, I would say Parkland. I mean, I don't...
love links, but Parkland's probably my favorite.
Yeah, but I think Parkland. I don't like the deep forest, that you can't hit it out of, but I don't mind if you're off the beaten path and you got to like punch through the trees or... Yep. You got to take kind of some risks through the trees or whatever. I don't like to hit it wayward and then go, oh, that's for sure a lost ball. So I'd say Parkland, yeah.
Yep. Last and final question. We didn't talk about this either. Completely forgot to mention. New PGA Tour CEO comes from the NFL. Can't remember his name. Brian Rapp, I think maybe.
Yeah, 18-month transition is kind of a long time.
Jay Monahan sucks, so get his ass out of there.
Yeah.
But what if you were talking to him and say, hey, Brian, what's the this is the one thing we need to change immediately? What would that be?
I would say stop chasing the live. Like, if guys want to go to the live, let them go. Like, it really, in my opinion, I don't look at the TV ratings and that kind of stuff, but I don't think it's impacted things because you got enough good guys and some guys that all of a sudden go on heaters and heat up and that are just good people too, that are, you want to root for them. Let live be their thing. Like, stop. They don't get the TV ratings. Yeah, you get the personalities just in the majors. Okay, fine, whatever. Would it be nice to have DeChambeau and Koepka and Rahm, some of those guys in particular on the PGA Tour all the time? Sure, but I would say stop fighting that.
Yeah. I think mine would be, I would make these elevated events be more full fields, make it be like 75 people and have there be a cut. I think it's stupid. If a guy goes out and shoots 75, he's 10 over par, for example, this week, and the leaders are at 10 over par, he's at 10 over par, and the leaders are at 10 over par. Dude has no chance of making it. Right. Like, he's playing for, how much money is he going to get? $5? Like, what's the point of that?
They're probably getting a lot of money.
I think doing that, I've heard that a lot of, the age-old make the PGA of America or USGA change the rule where if the ball rolls into a divot, you can move it out next to it. I think stuff like that.
That stuff doesn't impact us as amateurs because we're smart enough to fix that on our own. But yeah. I mean, there's lots of little things you could do. There's some big things you could do. Honestly, I mean, thinking of it from a big thing perspective, shorten the season and make those events. What most events have 140 people, right?
You want the best to play in your events. For example, like, if you cut down the number of events, maybe there's 20 events throughout the season and there's a gap. Sometimes, you got to go back to back for, the California swing, whatever. But, make there be a little bit more of a gap so you're getting the Scotties, the Rorys, the Xanders in an event like the John Deere or an event like the Wyndham Championship or the Texas Open. Like, and rotate these tournaments around, play Texas, the Valero one year, and then the next year it's going to be the Byron Nutley, you know what I mean? Just switch it around a little bit, make it more competitive. And so
they're never going to do that.
No, but that'd be a way of getting the best guys to play every single week without complaint. That's all I got. You got anything else?
Nope.
All right. We appreciate all of our loyal listeners. Let us know if you want us to discuss anything. Any mailbag questions? Like I said, Mount Rushmore's brackets, we're always open to them. But stay cool out there.
Meanwhile, as the great Newt Rockney once said, life is like a grindstone, and whether it grinds you down or polishes you up depends on the stuff you're made of.